Hello there. You're watching WION The World is One. Time now for Race to Power with me, Eric Njoka. A lot lined up in the next 30 minutes from power corridors around the world. In war-battered Ukraine, there is a power tussle emerging despite raging front lines. Will Volodymyr Zelensky potentially be replaced by an alternative backed by the United States? And in Pakistan, the legal noose is tightening on jailed ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan's PTI party. More leaders of the banned party have been convicted in the May 9, 2023 violence, with 10-year prison sentences to many. Welcome to the show. We start with Ukraine. Politics has taken a back seat in Ukraine since Russia's invasion on its eastern flank. But things are changing now as the front lines continue to close in. Questions are rising on future of Zelensky's so far undisputed hold on power. Now, according to the reports, the push came from Washington following the infamous public spat between Ukraine's president and Donald Trump at the Oval. J.D. Vance's team tried to poach Valery Zaluzhny. Zaluzhny is Ukraine's ambassador to the United Kingdom. He previously held the position of commander-in-chief for the Ukrainian armed forces. Reports suggest that Vance and Trump's other close confidants were hunting for potential alternatives to troublesome Zelensky. Zaluzhny is a battle-hardened soldier, Ukraine's first top commander without Soviet army roots, who rose through the ranks from platoon commander to commander-in-chief. He fought Russians in 2014 Donbass war, a conflict that was triggered after Russia annexed Crimea. In 2021, he was appointed commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces, but after the difference of opinion with Zelensky on how to counter Russia, he was stripped of his position by Zelensky and sent to London to serve as Ukraine's ambassador to the United Kingdom. It's not just Washington that sees potential in Zaluzhny. Latest polls also show that he's closing in on Zelensky. If the presidential elections were to be held today, 31% of the people, or Ukrainians, say they would vote for Zelensky. Zaluzhny stands on number 2 with 25% supporting his candidacy. Former President Petro Poroshenko is a distant third with only 6% support. The dynamics are shifting as we move into the parliamentary pitch. This is where Zaluzhny edges ahead of Zelensky, with 22% people, or Ukrainians, saying they would back the party of former commander-in-chief, with 8% separating them. Zelensky's bloc stands at number 2 with 14% support. The Kremlin is also keeping a close eye on these trends. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has put a question mark on Zelensky's legitimacy as Ukraine's president. He says the Kremlin will not accept President Volodymyr Zelensky's signature on any peace deal. Lavrov says Zelensky is only a de facto leader of Ukraine, not the legitimate one. In a nation battered by a full-scale war, public opinion is gradually shifting. With trust in leadership dwindling, Zelensky is on a tightrope, managing diplomacy with legitimacy while keeping his hold on power in Ukraine. So what is the future of Volodymyr Zelensky as the president of Ukraine? There is a significant dip in his support base and support for the president of Ukraine. There are Ukrainians who say that the president is a wartime president and he needs to be changed. But according to the Kremlin, they say he's not a legitimate leader of Ukraine. And when it comes to peace deals, they need a legitimate person to sign the declarations. Ms. Olena Tregub is Secretary General of Independent Defense Anti-Corruption Committee. She is now joining us live from Kyiv, Ukraine. Tregub, thank you very much for making time for us and welcome to WION The World is One. It's good to see you. I want your views on what Lavrov said. He says that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is not the legitimate leader of Ukraine, and when it comes to a peace deal and peace declarations, they want a legitimate person to sign the declarations. What do you make of that statement?
This statement is fake news, fake narrative, in order to distract attention from global audiences from truth. Russia creates such fake news. One of these fake news is that they don't want to have peace with Ukraine because they don't acknowledge Zelensky as a president, while in reality he's a fully legitimate president who was fully democratically elected. It's absolutely legal that Ukraine didn't have election during war, and majority of Ukrainian citizens don't want to have any election during war, and absolutely full majority of citizens, up to 90%, acknowledge Zelensky as a legitimate democratic president. That's number one. Another fake news that Russia is making, for example, they say we don't want to have peace with Ukraine because Ukraine does not agree to give us some territory. In reality, Russia doesn't want territory. Russia just wants to go on with the war. So what I see in common with these two narratives, that Zelensky is the wrong president or Ukrainians are not allowing us having territory, what's in common is that it's just basically excuses for Russia to basically continue the war, which they have no intention to stop. And this is why they come up with this stuff. So please don't even, buy this fake news.
All right, Ms. Tregub, let's talk about the elections, because after the war, then the elections will be held, and a majority of Ukrainians are skeptical about Zelensky continuing with his rule of Ukraine, and now the name of Valery Zaluzhny has emerged. In your own view, who do you think will be the contenders against Zelensky, having in mind Zaluzhny in the picture?
Well, definitely Zaluzhny can be a contender. There can be some contenders from a new generation of some prominent Ukrainian members of parliament, some, for example, prominent Ukrainian military commanders, prominent Ukrainian civil society leaders who became more famous during the war, recognized by the people. For example, another contender like that can be Serhiy Prytula, who is the head of charity foundation collecting money to support frontline. He's also actually a former actor and stand-up comedian. So we will have contenders, because Ukraine always has contenders, just like Zelensky became president out of the blue when he was not a politician. He just decided to run and just won election, unexpectedly for many. This time we'll also have contenders. So there is no problem with that. The problem is that, of course, we don't have a normal political process during war. And if we had a normal democratic process during war, without war, like we used to have, we regularly change parliaments, we change presidents, and there is a theory that in a transition country, like democratic country, it's very good to change presidents and parliaments on very frequent basis, because it helps to transform the country better. And we regretted that Russia attacked our democracy, and Russia took away this good trend that we had prior to full-scale war.
All right. Ms. Olena Tregub, it's good to see you. We'll have to end this discussion there. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Ukrainian refugees in Poland have been dealt a setback by the new President Karol Nawrocki in terms of the benefits they can avail in the country. Early in the day, Nawrocki announced changes to the rights and benefits available to refugees from Ukraine. Announcing his new plans, the conservative leader said that access to healthcare and child benefits will be limited for refugees who escaped to Poland from their war-torn country.
I did not change my opinion, and I intend to fulfill my obligations, and I believe that family benefit should only be granted to those Ukrainians who make the effort to work in Poland. The same with healthcare.
Wysiłku pracy.
The decision comes as Norocki hardens his stance towards refugees in an attempt to promote and implement a Poles first policy. During presidential elections in May this year, the Polish president campaigned on similar lines as Donald Trump to curb the extent of access and benefits granted to immigrants and refugees in the country. The statement comes just one day after Ukrainians in Poland marked their country's Independence Day, as Kyiv continues to battle intensified front lines by the Russian military since Moscow's invasion in 2022. At the moment, refugees in Ukraine are eligible to receive the monthly family benefit of around $220 per child. That is, refugees in Poland, on the condition that their children attend Polish schools. However, it is not necessary that the decision will come into immediate effect, and a power tussle is expected on the matter, with Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk opposing the president's decision. A pro-EU centrist and fierce backer of Ukraine, Tusk has the power to block the president's proposals. On the other hand, Norocki, in his capacity as president, has the power to veto government bills and also propose bills of his own. President Donald Trump is locked in a verbal feud with Maryland Governor Wes Moore over the Trump administration's accusations of record crime in Democrat-run states. Donald Trump has lashed out at Wes Moore after the Democrat leader called the president's orders to deploy federal troops in Washington, D.C. as unconstitutional and deeply disrespectful of local governments. Both leaders from opposing camps are butting heads of a crime in American states. In his tirade against the president, Moore said to Trump, and I quote, "If you're not willing to walk our communities, keep our name out of your mouth." Trump responded to Moore's comments in a long post on social media platform Truth Social, lashing out at the Maryland governor. Trump said, and I quote, "But if Wes Moore needs help, like Gavin Newsom or Newscom did in LA, I will send in the troops, which is being done in nearby DC, and quickly clean up the crime. After only 1 week, there is no crime and no murder in DC. When it is like that in Baltimore, I will proudly walk the streets with a failing because of crime. Governor of Maryland, P.S. Baltimore is ranked the 4th worst city in the nation in crime and murder. Stop talking and get to work, Wes. I'll then see you on the streets." In the midst of the ongoing tussle between Trump and other Democrat leaders of states, Washington, D.C. still remains on the edge. The national capital now has several National Guard troops carrying firearms. This comes after U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth issued a direct order for 2,000 of the total deployed officials in D.C. to carry service-issued pistols and rifles. Amid the state and presidency standoff on crime rates, raids continue across the country. Protests took place in Washington, D.C. as several FBI agents and officials raided a home on Sunday. Protesters booed the authorities as teams of investigators walked out of a home with boxes following a search. Let's talk to our correspondent, Susan Teherani, who's now joining us live from New York. Susan Teherani, good to see you. I'm just curious, was this deployment of National Guard troops in Democrat states back in Trump's presidency in the first term, was it like that?
No, what it has done, though, is that it has highlighted crime rates in urban cities across the United States. These happen now, the ones that Trump is highlighting, happen to be Democrat-run states. But for the majority of the part, because law and order and crime was such a top issue on voters' minds. I think the president believes that for the most part, he has the mandate to go ahead and do this. Of course, Democrats remain defiant. They're saying that they're going to oppose it. Adam Schiff of California yesterday said we're going to fight fire with fire. And so we'll have to see where this takes us and where the legal battles ultimately move as well, because it's going to end up in court at some point.
Susan, in your view, do you think this troop deployment is working, especially in Washington, D.C.?
It depends on who you ask. I see and I talk to residents of Washington, D.C. There are those that believe that something needed to be done ultimately because, you know, Eric, and you've been reporting on it as well for so many years, it just seemed to have been a foregone conclusion that cities like New York, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Chicago were just, that's just the way they've been for many years. And everyone was just throwing up their hands like, what do we do about it? But then again, you know, you have those that believe that this may be excessive and must be left to the local government. So the residents that are talking, some of them are very happy. People are whispering here in New York that maybe it's better that something like this happens in New York as well. But nonetheless, you know, there are those that just believe that what Trump is doing is very excessive and it's unnecessary. And ultimately, the numbers are showing lower crime rates, even though they're lower. It doesn't mean they're low, but they're lower than perhaps, you know, immediately after COVID.
All right, Susan Tehran, it's good to see you. We'll have to end it there. Thank you. Washington has made a sharp pivot in Africa. The United States, under President Donald Trump, is resetting relations with West Africa's military junta leaders. The U.S. is offering against jihadists in exchange for access to minerals. Under Joe Biden, the U.S. suspended most aid to Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger after their series of military coups. But with Donald Trump back in the White House, the U.S. is back in the region. In recent weeks, intelligence and forces to target senior American officials have been touring the region. The offer is the same for all three countries: American equipment, Al-Qaeda and Islamic State-linked groups. In return, the U.S. wants guaranteed access to strategic minerals. Mali is rich in gold and lithium. That is key for electric car batteries. Burkina Faso also has gold, and Niger's uranium is among the most valuable in the world. All this is happening as Russia and China are trying to expand their own footprint in the region. Moscow has sent Wagner mercenaries and now the Africa Corps to fight jihadists. China is investing heavily in infrastructure and mines. Donald Trump's America First policy is highly transactional. Dictators or democracy, Trump is always looking for a deal. In West Africa, it has become the trade of security in return of resources.
Policy of making America great again, and we also go.
Is committed to strengthening our friendships in Africa through economic.
Jailed ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan's party is facing fresh setbacks in connection to the May 9, 2023 violence. Faisalabad Anti-Terrorism Court has convicted 75 leaders of his now-banned PTI party. The decision came in hours ago, with the ATC of the city of Faisalabad convicting 75 PTI leaders from a total list of 109 accused. This includes central PTI leadership and 88 party workers, all of whom faced several charges in relation to the May 9th violence cases. Of this, 59 individuals have been sentenced to 10 years in jail, 16 others 103-year prison terms. Of the 59, court has sentenced senior leaders Omar Ayub, Shibli Faraz, Zartaj Gul, and Ismail Sela to 10 years in prison. Faraz and Ayub have also been convicted in other cases related to the May 9th, as well as the protest that happened that day. Shibli Faraz has already been disqualified from the Senate, while Omar Ayub was ousted from the National Assembly over their guilty verdicts in earlier cases. The ATC has acquitted 34 leaders and party workers, including former Federal Minister Fawad Chaudhry and Zain Qureshi, son of senior PTI leader Shah Mahmood Qureshi. This is the fourth such verdict in cases related to violent protests on May 9th, 2 years ago. The latest legal setback comes just 2 days after authorities arrested Imran Khan's nephews in relation to the same case. On Saturday, a Pakistani court sent jailed former Prime Minister's nephew Sheshan Khan in remand for 5 days in connection to the violence. Both nephews were arrested at a one-day gap. Sher Shah was apprehended on August 22nd in Lahore, while his brother Shahrez Khan was arrested on Thursday during a raid at his house. Violence spiraled on the 9th of May 2023 following the arrest of PTI founder and former President and former Prime Minister Imran Khan, who has since been battling several legal cases. The protest spiraled into chaos while Pakistan's Supreme Court has granted bail to Imran Khan in all charges related to the May 9th violence. The PTI founder remains in prison in relation to the Al-Qadir Trust corruption case. Immigration is back into the spotlight and political spotlight in Britain. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is losing support on the issue that Brits are most worried about. Starmer says his government is ready to fix a broken system, but Conservatives and Reform UK warn that his new asylum overhaul will not stop the boats. Protests have become a common sight outside the hotels where illegal migrants are held. Protests broke out this weekend outside migrant hotels in cities including Manchester, Birmingham, Norwich, Stevenage, and London. Now, according to the reforms floated by Starmer government, the current immigration tribunal will be scrapped and will be replaced by panels of trained adjudicators designed to fast-track appeals. Ministers say the move will cut through a backlog of 51,000 cases that currently take an average of more than a year to process. The Conservatives called the reforms window dressing. Reform UK claimed Labour was recycling their policies and argued the plan would cost £10 billion over 5 years. Nigel Farage warned of a massive crisis that threatens national security and could spark public disorder. Farage has put forward his own illegal migration mass deportation bill. The bill calls for migrants to be arrested on arrival, housed in disused RAF bases or RAF bases, and sent to third countries like Rwanda or Albania. As a fallback, the party even proposes using British territories such as Accession Island. Public opinion shows the immigration issue is at the center of public attention. A YouGov poll found 71% of voters are not happy with the way Starmer is handling immigration issue. This also includes more than half of Labour supporters. Now, according to the same poll, 31% of voters think Reform UK will deal with the issue of illegal immigration better. Only 9% trust Labour and 6% back the Conservatives. Keir Starmer promised to control the immigration crisis, but now is facing criticism from all sides. Public opinion is shifting against his government, with Reform and Conservatives pushing their own agendas. How Starmer stages a comeback on immigration remains to be seen. Let's now take a look at other stories from around the world that are making headlines in the world of politics. Turkey's transport minister has been issued a speeding ticket after he was caught because of his own video posted on social media. Abdulkadir Uralogu shared a video of himself driving at 225 kilometers per hour on a highway which is almost twice the legal speed limit. Turkish traffic police issued a fine of Turkish lira equivalent to $280 for breaking the speed limit outside Ankara, the country's capital. Following the incident and ridicule that followed, the transport minister issued a public apology. In some news from India, a court in Delhi has set aside an order related to disclosure of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's bachelor degree. Court has set aside the order issued by Central Information Commission, which had earlier directed Delhi University to disclose information about the Indian Prime Minister's Bachelor of Arts degree from 1978. The order came in 2016 after a citizen submitted a right to information request to release data of all students from 1978, including their roll numbers, marks, and if they passed or failed the course. However, Delhi University filed a plea against CIC order in 2017, arguing that the RTI applicant was politically motivated. However, the university had filed a plea against it. Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Manet, backed by his ruling party, has passed a law in parliament to revoke the citizenship of people who have been convicted of treason. 120 of 125 lawmakers approved the bill in Cambodia's National Assembly to allow stripping a person's citizenship who has been found guilty of conspiring with foreign countries or plotting against Cambodian interests. And that's the latest on this edition of Race to Power. Thank you for watching. Do stay with us. This is WION World as One.